and welcome to my channel. I did not mean to just do the Mrs. Doubtfire hello, but that's, I guess, what we're going with for today. Anyways, welcome. I'm super excited to be here. My name is Lori Beth, and I am starting a BookTube channel. I figured the best way to do this was to kick it kind of old school BookTube and do the newbie tag, because it's a good way to get to know the reasons behind me starting this channel, and I could honestly just babble on forever and ever and we probably wouldn't get very far. So I think we should just jump right into some questions and see where that takes us. Okay, question number 1. Why did you start this channel? Well, I mean, that's fairly easy to answer. I love books. I love books and I love reading. And BookTube seemed like such a good way to kind of be part of something bigger than just myself when it comes to my love and my passion for books and reading. I started a Bookstagram about 6 months ago or so, and I quickly fell in love with the entire community behind it. Also, not just that, I was kind of inspired by them as well. So the Bookstagram was really easy for me to start because I have always had this like visual mind. I have a very, very prominent inner monologue. So when I'm reading, I can very easily create things in my head about how they look, what they smell like, what they sound like, and Bookstagram was a good way for me to kind of take what I was seeing in my head and put it on a picture for someone else. What I was kind of lacking from Bookstagram, and lacking's not really like the best word, I like to talk. And I don't really have a space or a community in person that I can really geek out over books with. And that's kind of what BookTube is going to be for me. It's my area to kind of really just word vomit, I guess, if you want to say that, about all of the things that I'm currently obsessed with from the past that I can't wait to read in the future. And it's going to be easier to kind of like get all of this out and put it out there into the ether and the other community of the book world. And I think that's what I'm really excited about, is a whole nother community that I get to try to be a part of. Okay, question number 2. What are some fun and unique things you can bring to BookTube? Well, I don't know if this is fun or unique, but I will say that I am just a normal person. And when I say normal, I mean I have a full-time job. I have extracurricular activities that I enjoy being a part of outside of reading and the book community. I have a husband. I have a son who is a corgi. And I would say that I might read slightly more than your average person, but I'm not reading like 300 books a year. Not that there's anything wrong with that, and it's actually like incredibly impressive and I want to be on that level someday, but I'm busy, just like a lot of us are, and I read a couple books a month. I try not to set outrageous goals for myself. I try to be present in the things that I'm reading. I love, quality over quantity when it comes to reading. I like to use my time well. I think that in the book world, at least like what my eyes have been opened up to, is that I thought just like reading a few books a month was like super impressive. There's people out there that are reading like 20, 30, 40 books a month, and I find it so impressive, but also that's just not what I'm going to be able to bring. I think with my BookTube, I am going to be talking about exactly what I'm reading, what I have planned to read, things that I wanted to read that maybe I didn't get to because of life and all that normalcy that I feel like I have. And again, maybe it's not fun or unique, but it's just normal. And I think that when it comes to being out there online, finding someone that you can relate to is such a big deal. So my uniqueness is going to really just be like me being Lori Beth, me living my day-to-day life and kind of talking to you guys about it. All right, next question. What are you most excited for about this new channel? Okay, well, I don't mean to be repetitive, but I'm going to say community again. I follow a lot of booktubers already online, a lot of people that I look up to and kind of respect from afar. And I think I'm excited about kind of being a little bit more in part of the community. I like the idea that I've been able to like, subscribe to someone's channel and like get excited when their videos come out and comment on things and like things and get responses from them. And I'm kind of excited to do that with a whole nother group of people that hopefully are drawn to me for some reason, like we are relatable or compatible over the internet. And that's what I'm really looking forward to, is kind of opening my eyes and finding an even bigger community than I already have in the Bookstagram world. Okay, why do you love reading? Simple. Let's go back to that inner monologue of mine. Since I'm young, I can remember my brain just being just very imaginative. And along with that comes a lot of stress and anxiety. When you have a mind that constantly works, you are constantly thinking, which leads to overthinking. So for me, I fell in love with reading because it was a way to occupy my mind that I had not yet discovered. I'll never forget my dad bringing me a copy of The Hobbit when I was in elementary school. And I'm sure you're thinking,
like, wow, that's pretty advanced for elementary school, Lori Beth.
And it was. I had a really hard time following it. It actually took me a really long time to get through from cover to cover. But it did something to my brain chemistry. As soon as I could kind of start understanding like world building and what was happening in a story like that, it just took me away, and it did something to my mind that was like almost kind of a release, and it became very addictive in the way of like, what can I experience next in a story? Where can I go next? Who can I meet next? And I think I love reading because of that really prominent inner monologue and that brain that just like always is working. It allowed me to kind of just take all that energy and like use it into a story, and my neurons were firing and I was like going places and going on adventures. So I think I just love reading because it just allows me to relax and breathe. What book or series got you into reading? So that was a little bit answered already. Me talking about my dad bringing me The Hobbit. It's such a vivid memory of mine that I I can still, as an adult, think of like sitting on my bed when he brought it into my bedroom. Also, Harry Potter. So I grew up with those books. They came out when I was in elementary school all the way up through me being in like early high school. Like I was going to midnight releases when they came out. It just felt so involved, and it was the first time that I had ever really read a series. So I didn't know that you could like get so sucked in and want to know what happens so badly in something. And I think it really made me understand like what patience was and what looking forward to something was and getting excited about things. So Harry Potter was really like, it did it for me. Like, didn't know that you could do something like build a world that everybody felt like they could transform into. Like that was a big eye-opener too, as far as like book community. When I was growing up, I think that made me realize there was other people like me going to those midnight releases, and people were dressed up in like, their school colors or their house colors, and with like fake owls and like little Hogwarts pets and stuff like that. And we were all just like geeked out and so excited to like wait in line just to get this book. I think that's really what kind of transformed me, not only into my adult life, but just kind of like pushed me through a lot of adolescence in a really good direction. Oh, I like this one. What questions would you ask your favorite booktubers? What inspires you to be the person that you bring to the world? Because they're all so different, and I think that's what I love about it. Is it a saturated market? Like, can you become a booktuber when there's so many already out there? And it's like, yeah, I think you can, because we're all different. And that's what I think I love about the community too, is everybody is a little different. Everyone has a different look. Everybody has a different style. Everybody has a different taste. What challenges do you think starting a BookTube channel will be the hardest to overcome? I feel like the biggest challenge is being vulnerable and putting myself out there. And it's a scary thought to be like, hey, this is me. This is what I look like, I sound like, the things I like to do, the things I like to read, and someone is not gonna agree with a lot of it. I'm not gonna be everybody's cup of tea, and that's totally fine. I've learned a lot of lessons, and I have learned that being vulnerable, although it is scary, is oftentimes worth it, because I think you can really look back on things and say, you know, I shoulda, coulda, woulda. But being vulnerable allows you to kind of just put yourself out there and then face any challenges head on. I think the answer to that is really just the vulnerability of putting my personality online and then seeing what happens. When did you start reading? So maybe like first grade. Because I remember, so kindergarten is like, just doesn't really count, at least where I grew up in school. It's like you kind of just go, like we went half days and then your mom would pick you. It was still just like kind of like daycare-y. The first grade, I remember being in like a real classroom with a real desk and also a real book fair. Like, do you remember the book fair at school? I remember my mom giving me a little bit of money, and you got to go to the book fair and like look at a catalog and pick out books if they didn't have them there, and like little erasers and pencils. And I just remember being like, you can shop for books? Like, that's so cool. I've been reading since my like very first scholastic book fair at school. Where do you read? Well, I read everywhere. I read all over my house, primarily on the couch. This I feel like is a good like sub question, like when do you read? Because I love seeing that asked online, like when do you get most of your reading done? And I actually read the most first thing in the morning. I know that sounds bizarre, but it's quiet in the house. I haven't gotten my puppy up yet. My husband is usually getting ready for work, so I just sit with a cup of coffee. I don't even look at my phone. I don't allow myself to look at my phone. I put it face down on the couch next to me, and I read for anywhere from like a half hour to an hour. And that throughout the entire day is when I actually get most of my reading done. And where is it? It's on my couch. So I guess mostly on my couch, under a blanket with a cup of coffee is where I read. And that's when I get most of my reading done. What kind of books do you like to read? Fiction. I just love fiction. I have been in a fantasy phase for many years of my life, but I will say that goes up and down. So again, I loved The Hobbit. Then I got very involved into Harry Potter growing up. Once I was old enough, I started reading Lord of the Rings and obviously loved that. And I just started grasping onto those fantasy books because I just loved that so much. Like, I could not believe that there's people out there that can create these things. I am also slightly addicted to Gothic novels and dark academia novels. I went through a phase this year. Well, sorry, 2023. I was like, basically there was a slight chill one day outside, a breeze. And I was like, is it fall? I think it was still August. And I fell into a dark academia hole that I did not climb out of for a few months. Everything I could get my hands on, I was devouring. So long answer short, fiction, but mostly fantasy. I love academic, like dark academia books, Gothic novels, Gothic romances. A goal of mine this year is to actually get back into literary fiction. So just a lot of fiction books. That's what I read for a long time because they were very accessible. There was always one coming out that sounded really good. So I have kind of gotten away from that because I did get so involved in fantasy again because, I found ACOTAR as an adult, and it had been a long time since a fantasy series had like done that to me. So anyways, fiction. These are some really long answers. What does your book collection look like? Well, here's part of it, some of it. You can't see all the way to the top shelves, but as we get to know each other, you will see more and more of my books. These are not everything. So I've got more down here. I've got some upstairs that I try to keep the books that I haven't read upstairs. I've got a small stack that has started in the bedroom. It's growing. It's growing and I absolutely love it. So I am physical book girly through and through. I do have a Kindle, which I like. When I was gifted that from my husband, it was like, hello, I can't believe I've been missing out on this for so long. So I do have lots of books on my Kindle as well. And then I just keep buying books. So yeah, the collection is growing and we're going to have to figure out that space issue at some point, but one thing at a time. That was a lot of questions. I feel like if you don't know me by now, then I really did something wrong because I talked and talked and talked. And again, that's kind of what I'm excited to do. This is a space for me to really open up and just put it all out there. I just love to geek out over these things. And as I said, I don't have really tons of people that I can just do that with, like that I could go to like get coffee with and sit down and be like, oh my God, what did you think about the ending of that book? I have a few friends that like to read some of the same things as me, but it's really like one or two. And we're never really on the same page quite literally. Again, I already have a small community that I've built on Bookstagram and the people that I have been drawn to and followed on BookTube. And I really kind of at the end of the day hope that this brings people to me. Like you build it and they will come type of situation. So yeah, I'm so excited for this journey. I can't thank you guys enough for being here. If you want to follow me over on Bookstagram, my name is Lori Reads Things, Lori.reads.things. It's actually on my sign over here. I don't know if you can see that. Beep, beep. Like and subscribe if you want to stick around and get to know me a little bit more. And I'll see you guys in the next one.